this is just a very short list, 6 items of life in Colorado pre-2018, and hopefully we've got some newer residents here. I love new people who don't remember what life was like. We were 3rd in the nation for personal income growth. This is all pre-2018. We had a regulatory burden in the lower half of all states. We were tied for 2nd lowest unemployment in 2017 at 2.7%, and that was not an unusual year. Job growth of 2.4% in 2017, and again, typical for a state that was almost always in the top 10 for job growth. And I love this part. We were a top 10 destination for people moving in from other states. We are now 39th in the nation for personal income growth. 39th. That's the tax burden. That's the regulatory burden. 6th worst regulatory burden in the nation. What was I just saying?
Right.
6th worst. In March, we had the 2nd highest unemployment rate, which is not atypical. It didn't used to be. Now it is. And, this breaks my heart. We are a bottom 10 destination for people moving in.
I've spent nearly all my life here in Colorado. I want to look at the changes here. But first, like and subscribe our channel. Click that little bell icon for notifications and find the Devil's Advocate podcast on your favorite listening app. Stephen Green, who created vodkapundit.com. So how much vodka do you drink daily?
Never. Almost never before breakfast.
This is a lot of vodka.
And it's warm, too. I'm a little disappointed.
Yeah, but it's generic. Costco vodka is not bad.
Yeah, that'll wake you up in the morning.
It's a good way to do it. All right, first of all, tell me about Vodka Pundit.
So right after 9/11, I discovered blogs. I'd never even heard of them before. One of them was Instapundit. Glenn Reynolds, constitutional law professor, very sharp guy. And after reading Glenn for a couple of months, I thought, I could do this. I would like to do this. But I wanted something that was like Instapundit, just a little dumber.
You're not a lawyer.
No. No.
Your parents were married.
No, not that either.
So it is amazing to me how different events have spurred people into the world of politics or activism. I know a lot of people who it was the COVID lockdowns here in Colorado that drove them nuts, and they had to do something about it, even nationally. Jennifer Say out in San Francisco lost her job with Levi Strauss as upcoming CEO because she just couldn't stay quiet on what it was doing to kids. 9/11 was another one of those events. What about 9/11 spurred you?
There was the question of what can I do to help? And this is something that I don't know, maybe I'm attracted to it in some ways, but my character is unfit for the military. And so I asked myself, what can I contribute that is within my actual skill set? And I'd always enjoyed writing, and after 22 years of it, maybe I'm decent at it. 23
You make a living off this?
Believe it or not.
You make a living off of a website?
Yes.
That is insane. What did you do before that?
I was day trading.
Oh,
so I started this as a hobby.
You were going to die anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah. A day trader does not have a long lifespan.
I had in my late 20s, a doctor tell me, so what do you do? Or ask me, what do you do? I told her. She said, do you have to?
Really?
Really.
How much Red Bull would you have a day?
I wasn't a Red Bull guy. I was slamming Cokes like you wouldn't believe it. Yeah, about a 6-pack of Cokes a day.
Can't all that be replaced now by AI? That so much of it is you're looking at a stock in this market, you're comparing it with that market, and you think, is there arbitrage I can do? There's this. It's going to go up. You're looking at what you think is the right indicator. It's like, buy, sell, buy.
I would think so. It wouldn't have fit the way I was doing, which was just to read literally everything and wait for your brain to make those random connections, usually in the shower. That's just how I work. Now I do it with columns instead of stock trades. It's a lot less stressful.
What was the most you've ever lost in a day?
I'm not going to answer that one.
What was the most you've ever made?
I'm not going to answer that one either.
How suicidal were you when you lost the most in a day?
There is a dark black pit in your stomach combined with cold sweat. right
for
up
people
here.
don't get it, and I honestly don't get it. It is a highly leveraged game you play.
I never traded on margin.
Okay,
I saw people do that and go broke in a big way.
yeah.
In fact, my mom was dating a guy who, after the dot-com bubble burst, had to sell off his prized port collection, and it was, yeah.
So your mom's single. Would you be interested in?
No, oh, no,
would you like
sorry.
this as a stepdad?
No.
All right, let's get back to
Okay.
it. And I'm amazed the changing face of commentary. That before it was George Will or whoever it was.
The guys you saw on ABC this week with David Brinkley was a great crew.
Right, and they made it. The problem is that it was always Washington politics. And politics really is in your backyard, not in Washington. My feeling is we don't need any more commentary about Trump. We need commentary about Polis and the Colorado Springs mayor and all the rest. When did you get here in Colorado?
I arrived in 1994. I was 25 years old, very much on purpose. I grew up in St. Louis, Midwestern boy, but I came out here to visit my aunt and cousins who'd moved here the summer before. One of my cousins was a figure skater, and this is when you trained at the Broadmoor World Arena.
You still do, don't you?
Not like the old days.
It's odd. The Broadmoor was where all the gold medalists and competitors trained.
If you were serious, you trained at the Broadmoor World Arena, and end of story back then. And I came out to visit the next summer, 11 years old. Picture getting on a plane in St. Louis. It's 90 degrees, 90% humidity, just miserable as hell. I get off a plane in Colorado Springs, this cool, clean, dry air. I see Pikes Peak for the first time, and I'm hooked. I'm home for the first time in my life at the age of 11.
My father had a very similar experience, and coming out here when I was 6, 1977, I don't know, something like that, 7 years old, it's all I know. And the philosophies I know came from growing up in the 70s in Colorado. And it wasn't like the old man sat down and said, son, let's talk about John Locke and Frederick Hayek. You know what Mises was right about? Von Mises was right about this and that. No, it was just watching how the world worked, that people took risk. People owned their lives. They wrote their own biographies. They worked with people or they didn't work with people. There was never a sense of, I'm a victim, give me some money, or I got to tell you how to live. Or instead of convincing you not to use plastic bags, I'm just going to outlaw it. There was no sense of that. There was this real sense of shared autonomy. You are a king in your kingdom, I'm a king in my kingdom. And that's what delivered my philosophies. And then later I was like, wait, Hayek talked about this? So when you came out here, did you notice a similar lifestyle?
Yes, it was something to behold, especially since even though I grew up in St. Louis, I took a 5.5-year detour through Northern California before I finally got here. I had some family things. I wanted to see if I could settle out there first. And I could see the decay in California already setting in. I spent the last 2 years in California, in San Francisco, and the groupthink mindset was already so solid, just so set in, that it was like a breath of fresh air getting to Colorado, where there wasn't this sense of groupthink, where if you didn't believe certain beliefs, you just kept your mouth shut in San Francisco, really in the Bay Area as a whole.
Or you get canceled.
Yeah, and we didn't call it cancel culture back then, but
it was.
It was. And arriving in Colorado, and it didn't matter that I was in conservative Colorado Springs, or hell, I played in Denver every weekend back in the old days when I was still single.
Right.
Colorado Springs, Denver, Boulder, it didn't matter. There was this sense that this is Colorado, and this is a fun, exciting place to be.
The idea of groupthink is interesting because right now groupthink is a pleasant word for what I see as a North Korean style.
Sure.
You toe the line. You use the words we're going to tell you to use. You pray to the environmental gods that we pray to in the way that we pray. And we don't say that, wait a minute, if we bring fossil fuels to Africa so they don't have to burn wood, we'll solve 2/3 of the environmental problem, compared to not having a gas stove here, which will do nothing for the environment.
You burn a tree down, and you have just unsequestered a whole lot of carbon.
Right, right. So but it doesn't matter if you're right or not. Being correct doesn't matter. Being in the group,
In compliance, in conformity.
and using the words and learning the lessons, whether it's transgender or environmentalism or individuals are evil, rich guys, or whatever it is, that your life can be over. And I notice this most with the old Democrats, the ones that we would go out and have a beer and have nasty arguments. And
My best friend in high school and college was a communist.
Right.
All we did was butt heads, and we
Right.
loved each other.
Right. But even those old Democrats were not communists. The Roy Romer, Dick Lamb folks who, John Hickenlooper, people who were capitalists, but socially liberal, whatever. They weren't socialists, and you could talk to them. I feel most sorry for those guys, because you and I can still talk the way we've talked. They're the ones who have now been driven underground.
And here's what I came to. I've always been a very small C conservative, small L libertarian kind of guy. And what I discovered probably in my 30s, at least by 40, is that one party rule, and it doesn't really matter which party it is, one party rule is unhealthy. I saw it in Colorado Springs, where corruption became a real problem. You see it in Denver, where just bad governance has become entrenched. And it didn't used to be that way. You talk about John Hickenlooper, more than any one person. This guy brought downtown Denver back to life. The city just owes him so much, but they've really turned their back on everything he's done, and it shows. My wife and I used to be up here every other weekend before we had kids. And then we had kids, and it was less frequent. But now we're not up here at all.
I'll agree with you partly. It was John Hickenlooper who brought us the road home, which opened the door to the invasion of transients.
I meant as a business person.
Yeah, right.
John Hickenlooper did this.
Right. Not as a mayor.
Yes.
Yeah, no, and it's true. His Windcoop brewery was a very risky move for a guy who was an unemployed geologist
And my
who got
very
laid off.
favorite place to play drunk pool in all of Colorado. I really love that place.
Right. And here he is. He's living on top of his pool hall and making their own beer. And back when that area of town was not a good area of town. And then it became a great area of town, and now it's not a good area of town. If you could find the tipping point of where Colorado changed from what I grew up in, what you were attracted to and said, I'm home by getting there, to this more than California group control, elitist controlled state. What is that tipping point? If you had to mark D-Day and say, once this happened, the character of the state
We had
switched.
Colorado. This is the Colorado I really miss in terms of politics. Is we used to have kind of mainstream Republicans down south and out west in Weld County, and then our Democrats tended to be delightfully weird.
Yes, the Nighthorse Campbell.
Yes, Ben Nighthorse Campbell. Gary Hart was not a traditional liberal Democrat, as we used to call him in the 70s or 80s.
Or even
Mayor Lamb, or Governor Lamb.
Governor Lamb, Pat Schroeder.
Yes.
For people who are old enough. She was a hardcore socialist, but she talked the same way at home as she voted in D.C., unlike most Democrats. And she was a great offset to Ronald Reagan and to everyone else. She was the real thing. But you could talk to her. You could argue with her. It was a different thing. There was a freedom of expression. So where's that tipping point?
I think the tipping point was probably when Colorado went all in on Obama in 2008. And I think 10 years later, the 2018 election really sealed the deal. We'd been drifting leftward. And when I say leftward, I mean hard left. I'm not talking about old-fashioned Democrats, kind of blue-collar party that we'd always butted heads with. I'm talking about the hardcore lefties who were a lot less union and a lot more Harvard.
What a beautiful way to put it. Let me grab that, and I'm going to steal that and use it for
Please.
my own. But yeah, it was the Adams County, Pueblo County, working class union Democrats that supported Roy Romer. That when we had these fights, well, no, that's not as good for business. Yes, it is good for business. No, the cattle ranchers like it. No, they
But
don't
we were
like it.
fighting over the middle.
Right. We were fighting over the middle, and it's that elitism that the left doesn't see. It's like a guy with terrible body odor. He doesn't know it. Their elitism just oozes of, this is the way society ought to be. We will dictate it from the top down. Whereas when we got here, it was, no, we're all doing our own thing, and society grows from the bottom up.
That's it exactly. And I guess what rankles me, and I live in Monument, it's a conservative, quiet, small town, not as small as it used to be,
Yeah.
but that's fine. Change is good. But it's the little things that Denver imposes on us and then lies about it. And the one that gets me, I don't know if this one irritates you or not, it's the grocery store bag fee. Because it's not a fee. A fee is something you pay the government where you get some sort of service or entry to a park, that kind of thing. It's a tax, but they call it a fee so they can get around table.
You're building a new house. You pay an inspection fee. That pays for the inspector to come and inspect it. That's a fee. No, this is a punishment, and every one of those fees that the legislature has passed, they know wouldn't pass at the ballot box. The hospital provider fee, which is a bed tax, the delivery fee for every Amazon package and every Uber ride, the bag fee, none of that goes back to you in a service. It gets spent someplace else.
So you tax income or activity. A fee is for a service or entry. And just by changing the language, they get to do things that are against the law, that are against the Colorado Constitution.
That might be one of the good tipping points. When the Colorado Supreme Court eviscerated Tabor by ruling, and said that fees are not taxes, that certificates of participation are not debt, and that, by the way, is, I'll have a 30-year bond, that's debt. I'll have an arrangement for 31-year bonds, that's a certificate of participation, that's not debt. And that makes, it's linguistic warfare. And I think one of the other awful ones was the debrucing, where they said originally that Tabor said a government can ask to keep the excess revenue, but they can only keep it for 4 years. The Supreme Court ruled, 4 years, we'll call that forever. So you only have to ask once, and you never get your refunds again, and they keep all that excess revenue, which builds up like a snowball over time. That might have been a great, if you had to put the turning point, that might be it for me.
Yeah, I think you're right, because what I was looking at, I think, was more of the symptom. What you're talking about, I think, is more of the cause, and that's an important distinction.
And I've said this before, pardon me for walking out. That decision on, those two decisions from the Supreme Court are a threat to democracy. As we're having all these protests about democracy is under attack, bullshit.
When a court decides that the law doesn't apply, the very clearly written law, that's not very democratic. It's some guys in some robes.
Right. So not only did they take away our right to vote on taxes, but there's something more fundamental that people haven't quite reached yet. When Tabor was passed, about 2/3 of what the state spent was from the general fund. We elect representatives, they set priorities, they spend our money. Since they keep peeling this off for enterprise funds, now about 1/4 of what the state spends is controlled by our elected officials.
It's down that low now.
It's that low. So 3/4 of our government is not democratically elected. They're appointed. So either we get federal money or we get these fees, and the fees are run by boards that are appointed. And at some point, if you're going to be consistent and worried about democracy being taken, That ruling, which now means that only this much of our money is actually controlled by who we elect, that's a danger to democracy.
I'd say that's not just a danger. I'd say it's some serious damage
Right.
by about 75% of the budget.
Right, exactly. It's going to be bad. All right, add some meat to this.
Okay.
What bothers you the most about the new Colorado?
If I had to sum it up in just one major sort of all-encompassing aggravation, it's the impunity that one party enjoys to pass whatever legislation they want. When you've got 2-to-1 majorities in both sides of the assembly and a governor of the same party, I think Jared Polis generally means well, but he is not much of a check on
No.
the State House.
And he's the only check.
Yeah. He is literally the only check, and he will occasionally wield that veto pen, but I just saw a headline yesterday out of Nevada where their governor just beat the record for vetoes in one legislative session with 87, beating his old record from the previous session of 85. I'm like, oh, couldn't we get a governor like that?
I think this year Jared vetoed 7 bills, most of them more symbolic.
Yeah.
One of them had some...
That most recent veto, I think. I can't remember what the bill was.
It was on probably Senate Bill 3, which was the unionization bill.
That's right.
He wisely vetoed that, and good for him. But there were 500 bills passed. So as a percentage, and he can't stand up to his left because this cancel culture left will destroy him, and they're already destroying him. And I hate to tell you this, he will never be president, not because he's gay, but because he's Jewish. And Democrats will not elect a Jew as their nominee.
I know we're supposed to talk about local stuff here, but let me just throw this in really quickly. Josh Shapiro would have been a much better vice presidential pick for Kamala Harris last summer, but she could not pick him because her party would not accept a Jewish vice president.
Yeah.
That's sad.
Yes, but somehow the Republicans are fascists. I haven't quite figured that one out. All right, you wrote a piece for PJ Media, and people ought to follow you on both those sites. You spit out a few facts of before and after Democratic control here.
This is where I put my reading glasses on, isn't it? I'll pull these up for you. Okay, so this is just a very short list, 6 items of life in Colorado pre-2018, and hopefully we've got some newer residents here. I love new people who don't remember what life was like. We were 3rd in the nation for personal income growth. This is all pre-2018. We had a regulatory burden in the lower half of all states. We were tied for 2nd lowest unemployment in 2017 at 2.7%, and that was not an unusual year. That was I looked through the numbers and I went, we're pretty much on board here. Job growth of 2.4% in 2017, and again, typical for a state that was almost always in the top 10 for job growth. And I love this part. We were a top 10 destination for people moving in from other states because you wanted to be in Colorado. This is the place where I felt
you could afford Colorado.
You could afford Colorado. That's right. And shall we flash forward to the last 7 years? What we've experienced. We are now 39th in the nation for personal income growth. 39th. That's the tax burden. That's the regulatory burden. 6th worst regulatory burden in the nation. What was I just saying?
Right.
6th worst. In March, we had the 2nd highest unemployment rate, which is not atypical. It didn't used to be. Now it is. And this breaks my heart. We are a bottom 10 destination for people moving in from other states.
Well, and what's so sad about this is I think about growing up here and how many kids will not be able to grow up here because their young parents cannot afford a house. And it's partly because of regulations, which makes it ridiculously expensive, but also because of these growth control boundaries. We live in a state that's empty. It's 98% vacant, but because they know where we should live, they pack and stack us. And so you can rent an apartment. You can't buy a condominium because they're not making them here because of lawsuits, and that's it. And those of us who have a house, I assume you have a house,
Yeah.
we're the winners. We got in,
We're locked in.
we're great, and because of this, our value of our homes continues to rise. But poor people, minorities, people of color, young people, they'll never get their first step on the economic ladder because of these elitist policies.
And this is the part that really breaks my heart. I try to be an honest guy, and I could never in good conscience put that bumper sticker that I always envied on the back of my car. The one that looks like the old green and white license plate that says native. And I always thought, someday my sons will put those stickers on the backs of their cars, and all they talk about is moving to Texas or to Florida.
My daughter went to college because she wanted to get out of Boulder. She couldn't take it anymore, and now she works in Dallas. And I on her toy bicycle and a little, I would put the native on there.
Oh, I did that to my kids too. I forgot about that. Yeah,
because it was a point of pride. Tell me about we don't talk about the emotional part of that. We do statistics. For people, how does it make you feel? Just describe, pretend this is an NPR interview. And how does that make you feel?
In a word?
In a word.
Homesick, and I haven't left.
Oh, wow, that's a great word. Yeah.
I miss the place where I still am.
Yeah. How often do you get tempted of leaving? Be honest.
Every day. My wife and I had always planned to just raise our kids and live and grow old together and die in Colorado. And now, as soon as our youngest, who starts his sophomore year in high school this fall, as soon as our youngest is out of the house, we are not just going to downsize, we will probably leave the state. And that breaks my heart.
Why?
It's not.
Why would you do it?
It isn't fun anymore.
What do you mean it isn't fun?
The things I like to do are no longer free and easy here.
Give me some examples.
Well, I love to poke holes in paper with firearms.
Yep.
And we've got legislation coming into effect, in August?
August of next year.
That is going to make that such a burden that I just want to move to a free state where I can poke holes in paper with whatever firearms I want without extra classes. I've been shooting since I was a little kid.
All right.
Without, $200 or $300 in taxes and fees. And
I think what's most insulting about that is with a may issue permission slip from your sheriff, who doesn't have to have a limit of how long he waits to let you go take the class, or what he can charge you, or any reason for denial. And
they can take it away.
Right, and they can take it away. And I think about, I've got several black friends who hate the police. I'm like, now the police will decide whether or not you can have a gun. Yeah. How do you feel about that?
Yeah.
I truly believe that Colorado is becoming so very anti-poor, so very racist. And if there's policies that are truly systematically racist, this one would be one.
There you go.
What else other than the gun war? And I feel you on that.
Oh yeah, it's hard to put it into words. It is the fact that all the places I used to enjoy, well, not all the places, but the downtowns where I used to go and dance or dine or whatever it was, my girlfriend, now wife, and I were doing. It used to be downtown Colorado Springs. Some of my favorite restaurants were there. It used to be downtown Denver, where, I miss Wanku. And it's not that we ever decided, let's become homebodies. We talk about going to these places all the time.
You're sure it's not just because you're old?
Well,
because you're old and you're grumpy. I mean, I wonder sometimes, is it that I'm old and I don't want to put up with the traffic, I don't want to put up with the homeless, I don't want to put up with the ridiculous expense of eating out anymore, which used to be reasonable, but now it's not.
That's something I didn't remember to put in my little list of problems here, because it didn't fit that nice little divide we were talking about. But when we had that nasty bout of inflation under the previous administration, Colorado got hit worse than almost any other state in the nation.
Colorado's inflation growth is in the top because of all the regulatory burdens, and that's only going to increase.
Yeah.
Where would you go?
This is a constant source of conversation on the sofa at night. Sometimes it's Florida, sometimes it's Texas, sometimes it's Nevada.
Wyoming?
We talked about moving north. I like Wyoming an awful lot. My wife hates to be cold. She puts on a blanket on the sofa if it's less than 80 degrees outside. I don't think Wyoming is in my cards as much as I would like to.
I can't handle the wind of Wyoming.
I live on Monument Hill. I'm so used to wind.
I can't handle the humidity of Texas and Florida. Yeah. This was America.
Yes.
Do you get a sense that there are people watching who go, job well done. We're getting rid of another one.
Maybe, but that's what happened in California. And that's another one that breaks my heart. The California dream was the American dream, but better because it was in California. And again, with one-party rule, with the groupthink, between driving out the middle class, which is what's happened in California, the state's income is practically feudal. You've got the very small percent on top who are doing very well. You've got everybody else. I believe about 1 in 9 Americans lives in California, and they have 30% of the welfare cases. This is coming to Colorado.
Do you see any hope?
There's always hope.
Yeah, no, that's a Star Wars thing.
Well, no, but there is. Voters can change. We can look around us and say, why is it like this? Why can't we do better? And
there seems to be this wild disconnect that how people vote and why they don't like the state anymore. Republicans have a lot to do with this because Republican dysfunction is one of the reasons this happens. And my hope is that Colorado becomes one of the first unaffiliated states. That
would be lovely, yes.
Yeah, that you have candidates who will not turn off Democratic women who worry about abortion, worry about Trump, worry about the gay issues, but they're not woke, they're not pro-crime, they're not pro-tax, they're not pro-regulation. And I think there's a revolution brewing here in Colorado for a third way. And
we need that. The state GOP has been in a circular firing squad for almost 20 years, and they still haven't run out of bodies. How do you do that?
Because there's still a bunch of old people who are in the party who don't realize the party's not needed anymore.
Maybe
the party doesn't do anything for you anymore. Controlling the party means nothing. And in fact, running with an R behind your name is like running with a swastika behind your name in swing districts.
It's true. And, I can't remember his name now, but the guy who was in charge of the state party was using it as basically
Dave Williams?
To finance his own campaigin. Who was that?
Dave Williams was
Thank
definitely
you.
doing that, yeah.
What a mess. It's not a party anymore. I don't know what it is.
Let's wrap it up with this.
Okay.
Talk to the people who come here and they're like, what are you bitching about? I just got out of California or I just left Illinois. This place is still heaven. The skies are blue.
Oh,
there's
it sure
sun,
looks like it. Yeah.
There's this and that, and people are enlightened. We're all driving with our electric cars, but not Teslas anymore, but electric cars. And they don't see what us old, cranky white guys are bitching about.
Well, I would say this. Don't look at where we are. Look at the direction we're going. And the direction's not good. You are bringing with you, if you're coming from California with the same expectations politically, that if you bring those expectations here, you're going to get the thing that you tried to leave. Same thing with Illinois. Same thing with New York. One-party rule is not healthy. And if you want to change that direction, if you want the freedom that's supposed to come with those mountain views and those deep blue skies, you got to have a two-party system.
Yeah, how's it working out for you? Hey, people want to read your stuff. Where do they go?
They go to pjmedia.com. I'm Vodka Pundit.
And vodka, just regular
Vodka Pundit, and I also post a lot at Instapundit, and I do a bunch of video podcasts each week for BillWhittle.com.
BillWhittle.com. I really appreciate getting to know you. Thank you for coming up here and doing this.
Thanks for having me. It's been a real treat.
All right, until next time, think freedom.
If you enjoyed that conversation, by all means, click one of these other great programs. We have the best conversations with the most fascinating Coloradans. and subscribe to our channel. Just click down below and hit that little bell button too. You don't want to miss a single show.